Picture this, an old man, his eyesight is pretty much gone, and he's lying on his deathbed surrounded by his 12 sons. He's about to speak his final words. But these aren't just, sweet goodbyes. Nope, these are prophetic decrees that are literally going to forge the identity of a nation and echo for thousands of years. This is the story of Jacob's last and maybe his most powerful act.
So, the man at the center of all this, he's a real paradox. This is Jacob, a guy whose name is basically synonymous with deception. I mean, he's the one who famously stole his older brother's blessing with some serious trickery. So there's this incredible irony here, right? The man who once twisted the sacred act of blessing for his own benefit is now, at the very end of his life, the one chosen by God to hand out the blessings that will define the future for his entire people. He's gone from Jacob the deceiver to Jacob the prophet.
So, you gotta wonder, right? What could a guy like that possibly say? What were these final words that held so much power they could actually shape destinies?
Okay, so before he even gets to his own sons, Jacob does something just stunning. It's a moment that immediately flips every expectation on its head and basically announces that God's plan doesn't care about human traditions.
Now you have to understand, in their culture, the rules were crystal clear. The firstborn son got the main blessing, and that was symbolized by the patriarch putting his right hand, the hand of power and authority, on his head. It was just the way things were done, sacred, unbreakable.
But then, his son Joseph brings his two boys forward, the older one, Manasseh, and the younger, Ephraim. And Jacob does something that must have shocked everyone in the room. He deliberately crosses his arms and places his right hand not on the firstborn, but on the head of the younger son, Ephraim.
And you can just feel Joseph's panic, can't you? He thinks his old blind father is making a huge mistake. He actually tries to move his hand, saying, No, Dad, not like that. This one's the firstborn. Your right hand goes on his head. He's desperately trying to uphold tradition, to fix what looks like a terrible error. But Jacob's response, this is what's so incredible. He won't move his hands. With this perfect calm and certainty, he just says, I know, my son. I know. This was no accident. It was a conscious, prophetic statement that God's choice overrides human customs. In a powerful echo of his own life story, he declares the younger will be greater than the elder.
So with that bombshell dropped, that God's will trumps tradition, Jacob now gathers his 12 sons around him. And what he says next is part judgment on who they are and part forecast of who they'll become. It's a series of just stunningly vivid portraits of the tribes they're about to create. And Jacob, he doesn't just give some vague, generic fortunes. He uses these powerful, unforgettable images to capture the very soul of each son's future tribe. For example, he calls Reuben, his firstborn, unstable as water, hinting that he can't be relied on. He sees Judah as a lion's whelp, a symbol of royalty and power on the rise. And Benjamin? He's a ravening wolf, a fierce warrior. Each image is like a key unlocking the destiny of an entire people.
And let me tell you, these weren't all good news. For his first three sons, the words are pretty harsh. Reuben, because of a huge moral failing, loses all the privileges of being the firstborn. Simeon and Levi, because of their violent past, are basically condemned to be scattered among the other tribes, never forming a strong territory of their own. Their past actions directly came back to shape their future.
But then, on the flip side, two sons are lifted up to become the future pillars of the entire nation. Joseph, the one who went through so much, is blessed with incredible prosperity, just overflowing abundance. And Judah gets the promise of leadership, of royalty itself. These two families are set apart to lead the way.
And the rest of the sons, well, they're the ones who really fill out the whole picture of the nation. Their destinies are all over the map. You've got Benjamin, who will produce fierce warriors. You have Zebulun, destined for trade by the sea, and Asher, whose land will be so rich it produces food fit for kings. It just goes to show you that you need all these different roles to build a complete functioning society.
But out of everything he says, there is one prophecy, one sentence really, that rises above all the others. It's a single line spoken to his son Judah that would become the political and spiritual cornerstone for Israel for the rest of its history.
This is the line that changed everything. The scepter shall not depart from Judah until Shiloh come.
Now, a scepter, that's the symbol of a king. It's the right to rule. Jacob is declaring that this royal power will belong to Judah's tribe, and it will be permanent. It's going to last until the arrival of Shiloh, this mysterious figure who many believe is a reference to the Messiah. This is a flat-out royal decree with massive long-term implications.
And when you think about it, the ripple effect of this one prophecy is just staggering. Hundreds of years later, Israel's greatest king, King David, comes from, you guessed it, the tribe of Judah, establishing the royal Davidic kingdom. But the promise didn't even stop there. It created this enduring hope for a final, ultimate king who would one day come from that very same family line.
So, okay, why are we talking about this? Why does this ancient deathbed scene still matter so much? Because it's way more than just a family history lesson. It's really a blueprint that lays out these huge principles about faith, destiny, and God's purpose. When you really boil it all down, you get these powerful takeaways. First, God's plan isn't stuck following human rules, like who was born first. Second, this is just an incredible act of faith, right? Jacob is speaking with total certainty about a future he's never going to see with his own eyes. It also shows a lot of grace, because these blessings are being handed to some deeply flawed people. And finally, it's his powerful confirmation that God's promise is like an unbreakable chain, passed faithfully from one generation to the next.
So that leaves us with one big question to chew on. Are these words just a fascinating piece of ancient history, some kind of old-school fortune-telling, or are they something more, a profound look at how our character, our choices, and maybe a divine plan all weave together to create a blueprint for destiny?